Hello, I'm Carly Ann. Today I'm going to be talking to you about 6 behaviours that people with an anxious attachment, or certainly that have anxious strategies, tend to fall into. These behaviours can be displayed when your attachment system is activated. So when you're experiencing a relationship or attachment stress or threat, you're not feeling yourself, you start to behave in ways that, to be honest with you, have more of a chance of pushing or keeping love away than anything else. It's not your intention by any means. So if you do struggle with an anxious attachment primarily, then you're going to want to stick around and be really honest with yourself about these behaviors that I'm going to be talking about. So if you're here, I'm guessing you already know that you're quite ruled by an anxious attachment, by strategies that you are currently falling into, and I'm guessing it's not helping you. Let me say, if you do fall into the strategies that I talk through today, it's not about blaming yourself. It is about taking responsibility, and it is about choosing change, absolutely. But sometimes you are reacting to these situations that are upsetting. Sometimes it is over something that perhaps doesn't require or need or is in proportion to your reaction. But that's why you're here. So there's no point blaming yourself, wishing you could have done things different in the past. You're starting where you are today. You're learning about this today, and it's about how you move forward. These 6 anxious strategies that we're going to be talking about today, they can really get in the way of getting close to someone, allowing someone in, allowing a relationship to progress. Or if you are in a relationship, you might find that you keep having the same problems, the same difficulties, the same reactions over and over again, even though you keep promising yourself next time is going to be different. I'm going to give you an example of how this can play out. I had a client recently who came to me like devastated because she was on the edge of her partner ending their relationship, not by her choice by any means, but they basically had said to her, her mood swings in situations where she agrees it was out of proportion. She felt like she had no control over that, and she really didn't want to be having these mood swings, sulking, pulling away from her partner. What she really wanted was closeness, and her partner really felt it as well. And so this was so devastating for her, because she knew that these strategies, these behaviors, the result of her insecurities and anxiety was impacting a really good thing. So she came to work with me, and very, very quickly, we went through these 6 strategies together. We identified her patterns, and most importantly, we got to the core issue of why this was happening for her. From there, she was able to make changes, not even just through communicating with her partner, but through regulating, through understanding what was going on when she wanted to pull away, that we could help her to lean in instead. And look, it transformed her relationship for sure. They felt more comfortable, they felt more at ease, they felt happier, they were able to talk about these things. It's not like problems just disappeared. They're still in a relationship, but how they dealt with them was very, very different. And it had a knock-on effect onto the other person as well, which is good. So that's an example I wanted to share with you. There's a good message in here, which is, if you want to have a healthy, loving, secure relationship where you can be open, you can be intimate, you can be heard and seen, then you also have to be secure as well. Because as much as you want that, that's also what your partner wants. So if you want someone secure, then you're going to have to work on being secure yourself. So I'm really pleased that you're here, because identifying these patterns is a really, really good step for someone with anxious attachment. Now, we're so close to me sharing these 6 strategies. Believe it or not, these strategies at some point were a safe option for you. This was the safest thing for you to do in that moment. Over time, it's become a habit. It's become the automatic response. And doing anything different can be uncomfortable, it can be challenging, and perhaps you don't know how. Parts of you still live in the knowledge and the understanding of these strategies. Okay, believe it or not, each one comes with a gift. I really believe that. There's a reason they protect you, but you're here, and so I'm guessing that they are no longer aligned with who you are. They're no longer doing you any favors, and if anything, they're getting in the way of you progressing in your dating life, of you having a easier relationship, of you feeling good about yourself in your relationship, of your partner feeling really open and able to express themselves as well. So I'm going to say once more, as I go through these, don't judge yourself, give yourself understanding. Each one has been a gift, and you are here and you're ready to reparent yourself and learn how to undo and reshape your reactions and your responses when you find yourself in a stressful situation in relationships and dating. Now I'm going to put the 5 strategies up on the screen. I just want to remind you, any of this so far, if you're relating to what I've said before, we've even spoken about these strategies, if you relate to my channel and the information that I'm sharing, then you need to check out Follow Your Fire. It's going to be the best decision that you make today. It is a membership that I run for all things understanding and healing attachment styles and rediscovering yourself, coming back into relationship with yourself so that you can go from insecure to secure. You deserve to have meaningful, intimate, healthy relationships in your lifetime. You don't have to keep going down this same path. I know that for sure. I see people in the membership knowing that for sure. And here's the thing, it's full of people just like you, just like me, that are also on this journey of healing, of personal development, of knowing what it really takes to heal an attachment wound, because we know the books and just watching the videos, they don't tend to be enough. They help, they give us that like aha moment, they give us the information, but I'm talking about the transformation, the embodiment, the actual change, you know. So do check out Follow Your Fire, but all the links in the bio. Let's start with the first strategy that people fall into with anxious tendencies. The first you might relate to is excessive contact. So when you're under some kind of threat, some kind of trigger to your relationship, not necessarily accurate, but a perceived one, then you may feel like the only thing that's going to help you in this moment is to contact this person, to hear from them, to hear back from them, or to be able to get in contact with them. And you will attempt to get close to them, and you will think of all of the ways. You will be thinking of, maybe I could bump into them. Maybe I could go near to where they're working. Maybe I could send this message. Maybe I could tell them that this reminded me of them. Maybe I could put this story on my Instagram and maybe they'll reply to that. You'll come up with everything. You'll come up with things that have worked in the past, things that haven't worked in the past. You will lose a sense of self in this moment. The only thing you want in this moment is closeness. And like I say, the work that I do with my clients is around why. Why is this happening? Why is this proximity so important to you? So you might feel like you have no control. Okay, part of you knows that there is going to be a price to pay for this excessive contact. If you can't get in contact, you might find that you're doing things like checking when they're online, checking their social media, almost going into like detective mode as a form of wanting to get close. I'm going to say that in my membership, there is a masterclass called Understanding Attachment Triggers and How to Change Them. And that masterclass, recorded on the 1st of April, is so important for this, because we want to help you to be able to come back to a state of being yourself, come back home to your body so that you can make wiser, better decisions. This excessive contact is one of the key things that can really push people away. And when you come back down to earth, when you're regulated again, you're either having to explain yourself and sort of undo what's happened, or you're feeling really bad about yourself. There's no need to feel bad about yourself, of course, but it tends to be the pattern. And if you weren't falling into the excessive contact, you probably wouldn't feel so bad afterwards. The next is withdrawing. So you might find that you once you're triggered, something happens, perhaps your love interest or your partner says something or does something that just triggers you to think they don't care, they're changing, they're pulling back. You might go into avoidance. Perhaps they've done something where you're feeling a bit jealous. You might feel anger, you might feel a mixture of emotions, and you might want to say something, but all that happens is that you find yourself withdrawing, getting further and further away. You want to come in, you want to be able to have that intimacy and be close, but you're just pulling back and back, and it might again feel out of your control. You're probably feeling torn between wanting their love and dismissing their love. And the more attention that they're giving you, the more that they're trying to get your attention, the more that you might go inwards and pull back. But if they then withdraw, that's when you might do a U-turn. That's when you might find yourself like, no, I didn't mean it, like come back, because then that the fear that they're going to leave then kicks in. Or that can also happen again when you sort of come back home to yourself, that fear can kick in of, oh no, like I've ignored them, they're going to be upset with me, whatever, all of those thoughts that might go through your mind. So withdrawing is the next one. Let me know as well in the comments, whilst I remember, subscribe to the channel. In the comments, let me know as I'm talking, which ones you relate to. I love to hear from you, but also if there's any points that I say, perhaps it's like a whole one like withdrawing, or when I'm talking about the wanting to communicate but struggling, if anything like that you relate to, put it in the comments, because what I can do is consider a full video on just that point. You know, we can really get specific on any points that come up that relate to you, that you'd love to know about. And on Instagram, just whilst I remember all of this stuff, and then we'll go on to point 3, I do a weekly Q&A, and again, sometimes they get turned into these videos. So do put questions up, and I post, like, go check out my YouTube channel if you haven't already. You'll see that there's weekly Q&As there. So the questions I get asked in my DMs or on Instagram, you can get a full answer to that. So it's worth asking. Okay, the next pattern you might find is that you keep score. So when you're keeping score, it's almost, look, again, everything comes from a gift. You're trying to protect yourself. If you want to work on this, then absolutely we can really look at what's happening for you, because you might be falling into one of these patterns or all of them. But with keeping score, it's when you're very, very aware of what they've done versus what you've done. What have they said versus what you've said? When did they last text? When did you last text? Who's texting first, like the most? Have they ever texted me first? Who's planning the dates? Who's initiating the intimacy? You're really keeping score of that. You forget that a secure person, we're talking about secure, because that's the kind of relationship you want, right? We want you to be able to be secure. If you're trying to do all of this for someone avoidant, that's going to be a bit more tricky. Okay, these things will really push them away. You forget that a secure person is unlikely thinking about these things, and an avoidant, to be honest. They're not thinking about these things in the same way, because they're functioning on other things apart from just the relationship. You're possibly only really thinking about and spending your day assessing the relationship. That's not what they're doing. They're not thinking about you to that same extent, and they're not analyzing everything. So that keeping score, and you're thinking, right, well, did they text me? Should I text them? I can't text them because they've done this, or I haven't done this. There's not so much meaning in it all the time, because actually they're just, they're going to message you if they want to message you, or not if they don't want to. There's not this whole, I'm going to do this, they're going to do that. It's really difficult as well, because you're in this position where you're not wanting to be too needy, but you also want proof of affection and validation and love. So I understand, look, this is not about bombarding anyone, and it's not about saying, okay, well, I'll just plan everything and I'll do all of the things. Balance is nice. We want to feel that. You can be aware of it, but it's more like, is keeping score overtaking? Is it making all of your decisions? Are you doing this from a place of fear and feeling tense? Or is it coming from a place of, I've noticed and I'm curious about, there's a difference in my energy, there's a difference in the way that I feel. Perhaps I can communicate that. You know, I've really noticed that I am the one that initiates all the contact. I initiate the intimacy every time. I'm just curious about that. You can have these conversations. It's all about where we're doing these things from. Acting hostile and threats is the next strategy that people can fall into. With this, there's some similarities with withdrawing. I tend to feel you might see it that you criticize the person. You might know that you're doing it at the time or not. It might be an attempt to sort of keep them close, keep them small. You don't want them to do X, Y, and Z because you're afraid of losing them. Again, I'm going into the whys. You might find that you threaten to leave. The worst case scenario, actually, it's not always the worst case scenario, because perhaps you threaten to leave an avoidant person who does leave. You feel like it's the end of the world, but you've possibly done yourself a favor. But we're talking about a secure relationship that you don't want to push away. Threatening to leave is not nice for someone, and there's only so many times you can do that. Preferably not at all unless you really mean it. But it can be an automatic response, again, seeking that validation, wanting something in return. And if it gets agreed, if the person says, okay, that's going to be really, really difficult for you. You're going to do a big flip and your emotions are going to be so overwhelmed. You might sometimes think that you mean it in the moment because you've justified it. This is why I talk to people a lot about when to make your decisions and to be very, very aware of your thought processes. This is something I get really clear on with people in the first few sessions when we work together one-to-one, because you might really begin to justify, well, this is a boundary, actually. This is something that's important to me. How dare they? And you really believe it. So you might make threats of whatever they are, threatening to leave as avoidance and proof of love again. And yeah, like I say, just really criticizing them about their behaviors and what they're doing. And it's coming from a place where you're very heightened. You might say things that you don't mean. You might explain it in a way that's not very kind. It can be really, really challenging for both people involved. And lastly is manipulating, consciously or unconsciously. If you're here, I kind of expect that it's not something that you want to be falling into, but you find that you are. This might be things like making them jealous to see their reaction. You judge them for their reaction as well. So say if they're not jealous, which someone who's secure might not be, you have the expectation that they have the same feelings as you and that they feel the same kind of threats as you do and the same kind of emotions, and they don't. So when they're not jealous, you take that as all that surely means that you don't care, or it's a way to make them jealous, and perhaps it does work, it does get you that relationship back, you kind of get what you want, but that's then what the relationship is based on. It's based on manipulation. And if you're here looking for something secure and healthy and happy, that can be really challenging. Maybe you're posting things on social that you want them to say. You're trying to manipulate how they feel and how they see the situation. There's that kind of like lack of honesty. There's reasons that you're doing this and you might not well be proud of it. Please don't judge yourself. You're not stuck here. You can begin to transform how you show up and how you behave as a person so that you can feel aligned, you can feel proud. It might not always get you the person or the relationship that you feel like you need, but if you can feel good about how you're showing up inwards, like when we stop rejecting ourselves and abandoning ourselves and manipulating ourselves, that's just one of the best feelings. That's where we start to feel happy. And that's where we're more likely to attract a secure partner. So your next steps, as I've already said, is to, look, number one, actually, let's just say, thinking about those 5 strategies, being just really honest with yourself. Where do I fall into them? If you fall into all 5, that's okay. I can look at my past behaviors and see all 5 of them in there. Just being curious. You might have an inner knowing now of what you want to work on and what you want to stop doing, or what you want to do more of, or what you want to shift. To go deeper, join Follow Your Fire. Join my membership for attachment styles and rediscovering yourself, so that you can come back into relation with yourself. And that's going to have a beautiful ripple effect onto your other relationships, especially romantic relationships. Subscribe to this channel because each week I release brand new videos. Make sure you're following me on Instagram, do all of the things. If you want to go deeper, if you want that higher investment one-to-one support, then get in touch and inquire about one-to-one. I'll put all of the links in the bio. I also respond quite quickly on my Instagram, so there's that option as well. Hope you found this useful. Do not forget, you're enough, you're lovable, you are so, so worthy, and you're irreplaceable.